The list of Tier 1 college football programs is very short.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To the Portal Podcast, where you get your daily recruiting, NIL, and transfer portal scoop. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 sports broadcasting or podcasting network, Locked On. Truly appreciate you having you in. Today, we're going to be talking about all the latest recruiting news as we get to that later on in the show. Commitments, decommitments, and everything else. We're going to talk about that always here on the Portal Podcast live show at noon. We're going to talk about the coaching carousel, and I have a pet peeve with that today. Coaches that give non-answers, well, they're really giving you a real answer. Yeah, they're looking around. We're going to get into that here on the Portal Podcast, but we're going to start off, with the number one thing that I think a lot of people overlook. What is a true Tier 1 college football program? What should the criteria be, and why are these programs so successful? So without further ado, this is my point. If you take nothing else from this show, this is what you should. Do you have an elite coach that is proven at the top end of the sport, meaning played in big games, preferably a player that played at his school that's done it too? That'd be nice. But somebody who's hired a staff that has been successful, is with an administration that truly backs them, not just gives public commentary that makes it look that way, reading off a script, but do they financially back the institution's football program with the NIL they need, with the facility upgrades? Are they trying to make sure they're in the proper conference for them? Are they doing the best thing they can to make sure that coach is in the best light? All of those things. It is very complex. Are those things in line for that program? And then, of course, it's just player acquisition. I say it all the time, and I'll say it again right now. 80% of college football is the recruiting / player acquisition / transfer portal. College is 4 to 5 years for a player. Your roster rotates over and over again. The NFL level, if you have the right quarterback, if you've got like a top 8 quarterback at the NFL level, and everybody can have their own opinions about that, but we know who the guys are. Boy, a lot of coaches look better, don't they? It's amazing how a defensive coordinator has got it a lot easier when the guy on the other side playing quarterback for that same NFL team can go into the 4-minute offense, and everybody in the stadium knows they're going to do it, but they're going to hit that 3rd and 6 pass to keep the drive alive. And the defense doesn't have to go out there. Those kinds of things happen, and then the head coach, of course, looks great too. In college, you don't get that. So player acquisition, does the head coach really like recruiting? Not does it, likes it, and then flourishes. Kirby Smart, those kinds of guys that put the time and the effort in, there's a reason they do a great job. Finally, the NIL / transfer portal, something that's evolving. I have some questions that I want to get into here for people, but here's my list for the top programs right now. And before I name it, there's going to be one at least that a few people are probably not going to like that's not on there. I'll get into why in the second segment, and they'll go at the top of Tier 2, but it's for an odd reason that should never be at this program. But we'll get to that in a minute. Top program right now is Ohio State. This is not hard to figure out. Ryan Day's proven it. He won a title last year. They recruited a high level. They're actually on an incredible recruiting run since the beginning of November. They got around 10 commitments from the classes of 26 and 27, which is insane. And they're not just getting guys. They flipped to Legend Bay, a really athletic player out of the greater Dallas area from Tennessee. They've gotten kids in the 27 class from around the country that are big time in offensive tackle out of Virginia, et cetera, et cetera. They are doing what they should on the field. That's as efficient a defense as I've seen, and they lost all 4 of their defensive linemen from last year, and yet they've got this elite defensive front. That is coaching, that is management, that is a plan, that is an administration that's made sure that Ryan Day has the right resources, the assistant coaching hires, all of that. That is the best overall program in college football. Anybody wants to argue with me on that, fire away, but the proof is in the pudding, and I am no Ohio State fan. I can assure you of that. Georgia, Kirby Smart, this is kind of easy. It's probably the most low-hanging fruit. They've been around it for a while. They've won 2 titles this decade. He's adjusted a little bit. This is something that I wasn't sure where I would, if I'd have done this 4 months ago, I may or may not have put them at the tier 1 level this quickly, but I think they're probably the second best overall because it's something that, again, I didn't think he would do because he is a very stubborn coach. They've started to throw the ball more. They've started to recruit receivers differently. They've started to recruit quarterbacks differently. I don't think Kirby wants to pass the football much at all. I really don't. I think he's a Stone Age head coach, but he knows he's not going to win that way. Look at them with going out and getting Jaden Wade, the most physically gifted recruit in the country, regardless of class. For those who don't know, he's the quarterback at IMG. He's class of 28. He's a sophomore. Freak athlete, 200 pounds, 6'5", every attribute you can imagine. Great guy, too. He just committed to Georgia. They got Jared Curtis, at least for now, a quarterback who's arguably the best quarterback in the 26 class committed. Georgia has changed even more for the future in terms of recruiting expectations now because of that. And they're getting receivers to go with these guys. And oh, yes, they're still getting defensive linemen and all that. If he can keep Glenn Schumann, this is the only question I have. That's an elite hire. He brought Glenn with him to Georgia. Schumann may or may not be at Georgia much longer, and I get it. That's the only reason they could dip down at any point in time. He's the linebacker / defense coordinator at UGA. But that program is going to be top 10 every year, barring something very unforeseen. Name a year you would expect them anytime soon not to be in the playoff. They're probably a top 6 seed every year. So definitely Georgia. Notre Dame, just in the national title game. Marcus Freeman is arguably the nation's best head coach as a recruiter. He's up there with Kirby, Mario Cristobal at Miami. That's another one. He probably doesn't get enough credit because he's such a good recruiter. Those three, along with maybe Fran Brown at Syracuse, they're obviously not a tier 1 program. Those are the guys that I think of. Is it coincidence that Notre Dame is now up? They've always been kind of talked about as a tier 2 program because they couldn't recruit well enough. You can't do it in Notre Dame. You can't do it because of the academics. Freeman has proved that wrong. They've got a top 5 class this year, and they're trending for just as good a class in 27, if not better. They've also got a great staff. They have somebody leave, they find somebody great to replace them. They've done a tremendous job. And now, kind of like Georgia, ironically, those programs mirror each other in a lot of ways on the field. They're starting to throw the ball, be a little more balanced. Obviously helps to have CJ Carr, a very special talent, but Freeman and his staff had to go out and allow him to do it as a redshirt freshman. So I give him credit. Need to see Notre Dame do it in the playoff this year. And for those that are saying they should or shouldn't be in, whatever, they're going to end up in, whether you agree with it or not. And I think they have a chance to make a run if they can get healthy. That's big if. They got a lot of injury issues to overcome, or they can be out quickly. But with CJ Carr, they might make a run too. I wouldn't bet against Notre Dame. And then finally on this list in the tier 1 is Oregon. That program is the hardest one for me to grade recruiting-wise and make predictions because their home base is so bad. The state of Oregon produces so few top-end players, yet they have top 10 classes pretty much every year. And they have just as many 4- and 5-star recruits, like the truly top-end guys, is Georgia, Ohio State, Notre Dame, Alabama, etc., as any school in the country. And Lanning's done a pretty good job in big games. They did lose to Indiana this year. I'll give you that. But what he's done in such a short time at the University of Oregon, and I get the whole Phil Knight, he's the greatest booster of all time. I get all that. But he gets the kids to buy in, even though they're using NIL to buy kids. A lot of times that screws up a locker room. I know. I've covered Florida State. I saw last year what it does to a locker room. Their ability to coach, to manage things off the field at Oregon, that is how it's done. And I don't know what the elixir is, but Dan should bottle it and sell it because that is incredible. Or, well, in his case, hide it because they're one of the few programs that's done it. I think that it's a very important part of this equation. You've got to be able to go out and get a few guys and not tick off your locker room because everybody's going to have holes in the offseason with the transfer portal. It's inevitable. Even Oregon, even Alabama, even Ohio State, whatever. Dan's teams go out, they'll get a couple of high-end players, and they make it happen. And now you're in the playoff discussion again. If they win out, they're going to host a playoff game. They went out. They're a team that I wouldn't want to play in the playoff. Dante Moore, yeah, he can take more steps forward and all that. But if they get healthy, they're like Notre Dame. Need to see them get healthy for me to predict either one to make a push. But there's a few weeks for the playoff starts. We'll see. But if that happens, if Sadiq is truly back, DeCorian Moore, etc., would you want to play against that Oregon team on a neutral field? That's a tough matchup. And they've done a really good job with their defense. They've got a ton of depth. They obviously recruit well. There's nothing about them that doesn't work. And just, again, as an obvious, there is no more funded program in the country than Oregon because Phil Knight is the booster. For those who don't know, that is, yes, the owner of Nike. So they're good to go, and he's a billionaire. When we come back, I'm going to explain why I didn't put Bama in tier 1. And this is something that I never thought I would say ever. And to be honest, I shouldn't. But they have every trait except for one that is pivotal to me, and it's a pet peeve for programs that are tier 1. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. As a Pacers fan, I had the opportunity last year to see them make a run that was pretty magical. That was a lot of fun. If you want to make any kind of wagers on the NBA, I have one that's interesting for you in terms of a numbers anomaly, and it's not a good one for my Pacers. To start this season, they've only won 2 games, and they are the only NBA team without a road win. They are 0-8. They play Cleveland, who's 6-3 at home. Coming up, I believe it is tomorrow. Will the Pacers finally get a road win? Yeah, we'll see. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Right now, the Pacers certainly aren't doing much of that. Plus, you can even combine live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets. Win your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. We do live shows pretty much every day, Monday through Friday at noon, unless I'm out of town, or like earlier this week, I'm still under the weather a little bit, but I'm battling through. It has been a long week. I love doing these. College football, in terms of coaching carousel, recruiting, portal, NIL. Right now is the busiest time. We're getting ready for the Thanksgiving weekend. It's unbelievable how much fun this is. All the major topics and everything else. And right now I'm going to kind of finish up on the first one, the tier 1 programs. I'm going to talk about Bama. And then I want to talk about coaching carousel. I have a major pet peeve with coaches that I want to get out. It drives me nuts as a person that's worked in media and is a big fan as well. So here's my deal with Alabama. They have the talent. They have the home base. I live in the state of Alabama. I know what it looks like. I know how much talent is here, is in Mississippi, is in Georgia, Tennessee, to Florida. It's easy for Bama to recruit. They do a pretty good job. The staff is adjusting. Excuse me. They do all the little things that you need in that regard. So what I'm about to say is almost superficial to me to even be an option. But this year, Alabama's coaching staff has just went out of their way to not run the ball. Why? Why would you do that? Why not try? You can tell they didn't work it on it in the offseason enough because they've got a left tackle that's going to be a first-round pick. They've got a center that's going to go in the first 3 rounds conservatively. They've got arguably the best freshman offensive guard in the country, Michael Carroll. They've got Daniel Hill and a bevy of running backs that are talented. What's the reason? It doesn't make any sense. While their passing game is fun to watch, and I love watch Bernard, I think, by the way, is tremendously underrated. He should get way more acclaim than he does. That guy knows how to run routes. He understands the feel for the game. He's one of the better players in college football that's not talked about, Jeremy Bernard. Ryan Williams, a kid I covered in high school. He's exciting. All that's great. Tight ends are good, blah, blah, blah. Why aren't you running the ball? You're Alabama. The coaching staff must maximize the talent that is at its program. It must be utilized correctly instead of forcing the talent to do what you kind of want to do. Alabama's staff has failed itself, or they would be undefeated right now. Alabama's 2 losses have nothing to do with players. This is all on the coaching staff. Period. There is no excuse for Alabama to lose to Florida State by 2 touchdowns, by the way. And there's no excuse for Alabama to have lost to Oklahoma, even though Oklahoma's game plan was good and all that. They didn't prepare in the offseason properly. They didn't prepare in fall camp properly. They thought, we're just going to throw it all over. We're going to be an NFL team. This is still college. You must use the running game in a traditional format, especially with that running back room. There's no reason. They're barely averaging over 100 yards a game. Why? That's how you go to tier 2 for me. Everybody else can rank them however they want. I'm steadfast. Alabama is not a tier 1 program until they can prove they want to run the ball, and that is a year-round deal. If they prove me wrong and go on some magical run in the playoffs, so be it. It's still an aberration. No team is winning a title with that running game. Tier 1 teams compete for titles. So count me out on Bama as being tier 1. A few other notes. What in the world should I do with Clemson? I'm open-endedly asking. Like, how do you rank them right now? That's the one team I kind of tentatively put them in my tier 3, but like they were preseason top 5. The other ones that I kind of have questions by, they all have coaching changes. I'll get to that in a second. But where does Clemson go? I have no idea. It's really weird. Other teams that I have in tier 2, Texas, they're on that cusp. They got to break through. We'll see if Arch figures it out in the offseason going into next year. It's possible. Did they figure it out with their offensive line moves and stuff this offseason? Probably not, but the administration, Sark, like they got proven coaches. I still think Texas is on that cusp of winning a title. We'll see. A&M, if they finish this year in the Final Four or the title game or something, they could be in tier 1 next year. Let's see what they do in the offseason. But like their recruiting in 26 and 27 is very good. Hats off to Mike Elko. I still think they've got a ways to go on defense. They're not quite where they need to be. But this offseason, just 1 or 2 moves, they could be there. Their secondary is certainly a heck of a lot better. Indiana. This one's one of the weirder ones too. I'm an Indiana grad, and we were never good in anything other than basketball and soccer. Being good at football is weird. But it's cool. But can they do it now with high school kids? That's the question. I'm not putting them in tier 1 until I see it done with the high school kids because they had 13 players come over from James Madison. 13. Several of them are still there this year. They were multi-year transfer players. Even though they're transfers, they knew the system. So that's kind of a cheat code. And good for them. It was smart. A lot of those guys are going to be gone, like Aiden Fisher, Surratt, etc. Those guys are gone. What can Indiana do? And they've hit on the portal quarterback 2 years in a row. Hitting 3 years in a row is going to be rough. I'm sure Mendoza will leave, but they're interested. Michigan, I've got in tier 3 because I need to see what's going to happen with, the coaching staff. Like, that's too new. Tier 3 is where I would put them, but you can put an asterisk. I don't even know if you can really grade a guy that hasn't gotten to 20, 25 games, maybe even 30. You got to get to about 30, really. I can't really rank them. A team that's kind of sneaky, tier 3, I would put Illinois. Like, what Bielema has done there is incredible. That's hard to win there. They don't have the support that some other schools do. It's good, but it's not the same as like Ohio State or Michigan or something. They're not doing that. USC right now, I have it tier 3. If they beat Oregon this weekend, I'll change my opinion. I'll move them up to tier 2. But the 2 games they played this year on the road against physical teams, Illinois and Notre Dame, they did not defend the run well. What is it about them playing on the road with their defense isn't as good? And Jaden Maeva, completes about 57%. That's weird. They're playing at Oregon. That will not be easy to run the ball. And Oregon's going to bring their hard hat because that's who they are. That'll be very, very interesting. I do not believe in Lincoln Riley as a head coach. I've said it a million times as far as winning titles. I'm not changing that. I don't think he prepares in the offseason, kind of like I was talking about with Bama. Called him out right here and right now. Prove me wrong. It's going to be another year because you already got smacked against teams that you should have either won or you had a chance to win those 2 games. You shouldn't be there at 2 losses already. But if you beat Oregon, I'll be right here to say, hey, you're trending in the right direction. The schools that I have no idea what to do with because of the coaching situation I'm not touching right now, or they would be ranked in the top 2 tiers probably, if not tier one. Penn State, LSU, Florida, those are obvious. Ole Miss and Auburn, they're probably tier 2 to tier 3, depending on circumstance. What happens with Lane? I'm not going to give them anything until I see him do something in the playoff, but we don't even know how much longer Lane's going to be there or if he's staying and he's going to tell LSU and Florida to pound sand. We have no idea. So all those I'm waiting until after the season to kind of go into. A couple that I'm disappointed haven't made overtures to head up the ladder, unfortunately, are Michigan State and Wisconsin from the Big Ten. I was just like, I created a category called uh-oh because they're just not recruiting well. They're not playing well on the field. They have moments, especially Wisconsin's defense. Their young linebackers are really good, but it's still uh-oh in terms of what's going on overall in Badgerland and with the Spartans. Iowa, I give some respect for. They would be a tier 3 team. They still need to see them do more offensively. And what about Miami? I know a lot of Miami people watch what I say because I cover Florida State. I would put them tier 3, borderline tier 2. If they make the playoff, like they play good enough and they get the playoff this year, do something, there's no reason they're not tier 2 and on that cusp. And if they win multiple games, you could be headed into tier 1. They're the team that's got the most up and down with how the end of this season goes. Because Mario has coached them out of games and he's helped coach them in. Like what they did against NC State is how they should be all the time. Get them to play fast, come out quickly instead of being like a sloth offensively. There's no way that's on the coordinator. Shannon Dawson is not that guy. That's a Mario thing. You have to go out and want to annihilate teams. That's as simple as it gets. So I'm curious to see about them. And for anybody that are wondering, I have no idea what to do with Florida State. I've got them in the uh-oh category too, and I cover them. I think Norvell should be fired. So we'll see. As for the coaching carousel, this is the one thing that I just want to say before I go into the recruiting stuff here in just a minute. Look, if a coach comes out, and I'm not specifically naming any particular coach because there's multiple guys that have either done this in the last week or will do this over the next week. It's going to be both. A reporter at the press conference, and they know these are coming. Are you interested in filling the name of the schools, blah, blah, blah. And the coach will say something to the effect of, I will not entertain any questions about innuendo and internet rumor and message boards, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. Then just say A or B, no in between. I am 100% under no circumstances leaving and fill in the blank, whatever school they're at, for any other school. Do it on camera. Look right at the camera, look right at the reporter, whatever it may be, and say that. Don't go with this garbage line of I won't talk about any innuendo and this, that, and the other. Because if you're doing that, that means either A, you're trying to use your agent to get more money from the school that you're at, and everybody knows it. Even if you don't want to leave, you're trying to hold them over the fire, hold them over the coals, if you will. Or B, you really are looking and you just don't want to talk about it. We're not stupid. That drives me bananas. Everybody knows it happens. Have the guts to just say, I'm not going to be talking about it, but I would listen to certain offers. You could say that. It'd be okay. You don't have to name the school even. Just say certain offers. I would at least entertain it. Don't make it sound like we're idiots and we don't know that. It is such a pet peeve of mine. Coaches do it all the time. And I'm telling you, even though I've just said this and other people do it too, there will be coaches with that same line of questioning come to them over the next week to 2 weeks that will absolutely throw it away. No. And for those that are curious, Kiffin is a weird guy to try to get a vibe on. I think that's more of a family thing. I don't think he cares where he coaches as long as he's coaching ball. He's pretty happy. I don't think he's trying to screw LSU over, Florida, or Ole Miss. But at the same time, if Kiffin has the opportunity to leave, I hope he makes a decision sooner than later because I'm just going to say this. He's the top of the board guy. And what he does not only impacts those 3 institutions, it impacts every school in the country because of assistance. His staff's got a lot of guys that people would like. Florida needs to get things going. LSU needs to get things going, etc. Unfortunately, with Ole Miss in the situation they're in, I get why he doesn't want to make it, but he still needs to do it. There's no friendly here for him. That's unfortunate, but he's making over $10 million a year. figure it out. And when I mean figure it out, I mean he needs to have a deadline decision before the playoff even starts publicly what's going on, or Lane's screwing everybody over. And it's nothing personal against him, but that's just the way it is. And that includes his family. But again, he's making over $10 million a year. Figure it out. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about the latest recruiting news here on the Portal Podcast. That is next. All right, this is a recruiting show. Yes, indeed. There have been a few commitments to get to. And in case you were wondering, like me, because I find this kind of interesting, with the new timeline for National Signing Day being the first Wednesday in December, it is buck wild to me. Absolutely buck wild to me that there are so many programs that are still getting these commitments and all these flips at the end with coaching searches going on and all that. I thought it would slow down a little more. The recruiting and portal would hit. I've been polar opposite on that. A lot of kids, at least not publicly, that portal is such a difficult thing. Kids know they're leaving. I've even had one kid send me his film and all this kid that was highly recruited. He's leaving a school, and some people don't even know it. But there have been more switches already than I thought there would be. So I'm curious to see what the last week or so is. It's pretty unique. So I have a feeling we're going to see, for lack of a better phrase, a whole bunch of stuff happen really, really fast. And maybe I'm wrong on that, but I really don't think that I am. So here are just a few of the commitments over the last day or so. Indiana's gotten a couple kids. Benjamin Novak, you got the flip from Wisconsin. I mentioned him yesterday. And they got another kid today. I didn't even know this until just a few minutes ago. DeMonte Timms out of Armwood High School. I used to live in the greater Tampa area. That's a good program, man. Armwood is really, really good. He's at Armwood. He's a safety. He's a big-time player. I think he's a little underrated. He is going to play for Indiana as well. Good for the Hoosiers, getting a couple really good players there. Mississippi State, I also just want to give this out because I think the program they're getting from, it's important for Mississippi State to get in here. Leon Knoll out of Edna Carr in New Orleans. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. If I'm not, I apologize. And Mississippi State needs linemen. I think we all know that. This is a big boy on the offensive line. They need more guys like him. Southern Miss, Joshua Joseph. Miami Central, wide receiver. That's a program that's always got wide receivers. Going to Southern Miss, Wake Forest picks up Kendall McCallum, running back, 5'11", 200 pounds. He's out of Riverside High School in Ohio, Painesville, Ohio. Athlete, Zialis Blackman out of Biggersville in Corinth, Mississippi. He's going to Old Dominion out in the state of Virginia, 6'2", 170 pounds. Missouri gets Jaden McGregory out of Valley High School in West Des Moines, Iowa, 6'2", 195. That's got to be tough if you're a Hawkeye or a Cyclone to see a kid going to Missouri. UNLV picks up Jaden Fox out of Cherry Creek High School in Inglewood, Colorado, in the greater Denver area, 5'9", 165 pounds. Eastern Michigan, JT Beasley out of Northeast Mississippi Community College, Boonville, Mississippi, wide receiver, 6'3", 205. Kennesaw State gets Michael Wallace out of East Mississippi, interior offensive lineman, 300-pounder. Again, Kennesaw State. Mississippi State picks up Tavion Atkinson, Trinity Valley CC in Athens, Texas. That's East Texas somewhere, if I remember correctly. 6'4", 280. He's going to play for the Mississippi State Bulldogs. University of Louisiana Monroe, Dalen Huston, Iowa Central Community College, Fort Dodge, Iowa, wide receiver. This is a big guy. Surprised the ULM got him, 6'3", 225. That is a big dude. He is headed to ULM. Cincinnati gets Cameron Hurst, Lift for Life Academy. I have not heard of that one. St. Louis, Missouri, 6'1", 170. He's going to play for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Brandon Grabbett out of Indian Trail Academy, Kenosha, Wisconsin. He's an offensive lineman. He's going to Northern Illinois. How about North Dakota State getting Jason Hunter Jr., defensive lineman, 6'4", 245 pounds. Again, North Dakota State. And then NC State getting Stephen Brown out of Marist High School in Chicago, Illinois, athlete, 6'7", 205. He is headed to NC State. While I'm on the commitments, I just want to just bring it up because every day I check it seems like every hour. Who's decommitted? Why? There are so many kids. It's constant now. There are a few here, and I'll bring them up as we go through. But Tavion Branch, This is an interesting one. A kid out of Pennsylvania. This is bad when Penn State loses in-state kids, even during a coaching transition, especially linemen. Like one of the reasons Penn State's program has ascended is they were getting linemen all around the East that were coveted. They lost, Kevin Brown. He just committed to his dad's alma mater in West Virginia. But Tavian Branch now, he decommits. That's rough. It is what it is. Louisville, like they're the program that lost the McGregory kid, and he ends up in Missouri. That's rough. Penn State also lost Messiah Mickens yesterday. That's a kid that had been committed forever. I met him at a 7-on-7 tournament. Great kid. That is a power player. He can catch the football. He's an every down back. That hurts. They don't have a head coach. I get it, but that's rough. And then the Timms kid that I talked about from Armwood that had gone to Indiana, he was committed to Dion at Colorado. So that's a tough loss. But I also want to talk about the 27 class real briefly here. I don't know what the deal is, but there are a lot of kids already making decisions for the class of 27. And I'm not sure what the rush is. If anybody wants to comment on that, fire away. But there are a bunch of kids that have made decisions, and some not just like bottoming guys that got an offer, just wanted to get on the board to make sure they kept an offer or something. Right, we're talking about Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, schools like that here recently. Khalil Terry, a safety out of Tustin, California, and that roster is loaded out there at Tustin, commits to Notre Dame. He had a ton of offers. Loved it so much he committed. Like I don't even think Notre Dame expected it. That's a pretty big deal. Jackson Stokes, a running back at another California kid. Sierra Canyon, really good program. He commits to OU. He's not the biggest back, but he can really run. He's 5'9", 170 pounds or so. Commits to Oklahoma. Wisconsin, they get, this kid, his dad is the AD. Ethan McIntosh, that one wasn't shocking, but he's a highly rated offensive tackle. He's still committed early. Maryland, they get a cornerback, Braxton Bell, a kid out of Calvary Bell School, really good. Oh, Calvary Day School, excuse me, down in Savannah, Georgia. Really good program right there. That's good for Maryland, considering their program. And like it's just over and over. I'm just kind of going through this list. It's just wild. A&M, they got Raylan Henry. He's a corner that everybody wants out of St. Francis. Already committed to A&M? I mean, they're great at recruiting, but a Baltimore kid committing to an East Texas school, that is wild to me. Georgia got Noah Parker. Not shocked by that. That's a running back that is really, really good from in-state in the class of 27, but he didn't have to commit this early. Ohio State, Eli Johnson. This is a kid from San Antonio, a safety that they really like, obviously. He's top 200 by 247. But a kid from San Antonio committing this early to the Buckeyes, good for them. A&M getting the Waxahachie kid, Jaquan Snell, speaking of safeties, one of my favorite players, regardless of position in the 27 class. He is a thumper, plays in the greater Dallas area. I think he will play very early for the Aggies. He's super player. Brody McNeil, offensive tackle. He's a kid from Virginia. For a kid like that to commit to Ohio State this early, they've been trying to up their game with offensive linemen. Good for the Buckeyes. Mikhail Davis, cornerback out of Desert Edge. He's going to Oklahoma. He's had a good year. Arizona. Probably not hard for Venables and his staff to sell defense right now, I would imagine. They do a pretty good job, to say the least. Wyatt Frey, Lawrence Nelson High School, Nelson, Nebraska, going to Northwestern. Tight end, 6'5", 220. Okay, so there are some kids like that. You just don't know. He's not ranked, but Northwestern does their due diligence and they get that kid. So just kind of wanted to bring that up. Got a few comments here in the chat. Let's see here. I'm not sure. I read this comment a little bit ago before the show started. Alan Beck says, and literally play 3 decent opponents annually, swim resume. I'm not sure what that meant exactly. I have ideas, but he didn't go into detail. I'm guessing he's somebody that roots for a team that he thinks plays a more difficult schedule than some of the teams I put in tier 1, but I don't know. Raymond Harden, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Yeah, I don't know. I do not know, brother. What do you think about Penn State decommit safety Matt Sieg that Notre Dame is trying to get? He's a really heady player. I don't know if Matt is somebody that is best long-term. You got to remember, system matters. Is he better at the nickel spot with what Notre Dame wants to do, or in the deep secondary? I would guess deep secondary, but maybe he plays some nickel in certain circumstances, like against teams against Navy, etc. Anybody that is going to play nickel, though, man, it's unless they're super long and super twitchy, nobody's built to play nickel, but I've heard that talked about. I don't know if Sieg can do that, but against certain teams that are more run-oriented, maybe. And he's just a naturally instinctive player in general. So if they get him, I mean, good for Notre Dame. That's a good player. Since you've lived in the greater Tampa area, do you know where Hermosa, Florida is? Yeah, it's just a little bit north. My wife and I moved here about 4 years ago from Fort Lauderdale. Yeah, I've been through there before. Yeah, I've been all over Florida because of 7-on-7 tournaments and everything else, Raymond. You name it. I have definitely been to a lot of these places. One last comment about the tier 1 stuff from earlier. If I didn't mention a team, it's because I'm still trying to figure it out. But again, my tier 1, I'm pretty steadfast with this for right now. Ohio State, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Oregon. Those are the 4 I think are. They support their coach. Their coach is proven, and they're getting the recruits. They're using NIL in a proper way and not screwing up their locker room, or at least even Oregon, like they're the ones that surprised me. As much as they're spending, they don't have problems. It's one thing to go out and get players, but they're doing it year after year, and they're finding ways to balance the roster. Those are the programs. Bama, I think, is tier 2 right now because I don't think they're using their roster properly because they don't run the ball. They don't try. That's my pet peeve. Texas A&M, Indiana could all be moved up next year, even by the end of this year, depending on how they finish out this season. Texas probably more next year, but A&M and Indiana definitely could. Let's see what happens with Michigan next year. That's a program I'm curious about. USC could move up if they beat Oregon. That's a big one for me. And we got a whole bunch that I don't know about. Penn State, LSU, Florida, Ole Miss, Auburn. They're all going through coaching situations. The one that I didn't address is Oklahoma. I want to see how they handle success. I purposely have left them off. They should beat Missouri this weekend, but they are on upset alert. Not saying that Missouri will win. I'm picking Oklahoma, but Missouri has 2 very good defensive ends, and Oklahoma has 2 true freshman offensive tackles. If you screw around offensively, if you have any turnovers, Missouri becomes a threat to win that game and knock Oklahoma out of the playoff race. That is a possibility. I don't like the D-end offensive tackle matchup this weekend for Oklahoma. They need to run the ball better, far better than what they did last week against Alabama, and they're not likely to win the turnover battle 3-0. I have no idea what's going to happen with Missouri's pass game, and that's why I'm still picking OU, but that game makes me nervous. I'm waiting on Oklahoma before I put them in a tier because I want to know that they can handle success. Beating Bama, sometimes heads can get a little swelled, so we'll see. Thank you very much for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day each and every day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Become an everydayer if you have not already. I truly appreciate you stopping in. So like and subscribe. We will see you again soon here on the Portal Podcast.